Hi guys, it's Stephen here. Last year I attended a commercial property workshop that was focused on the opportunity to convert commercial property to residential property. I was particularly interested in understanding permitted development rights when it comes to commercial property, to be able to fast track planning approvals because they take 56 days instead of waiting months for full planning approval. The way you make money with this strategy is that you're buying commercial at a lower price per square foot than you would be residential. Therefore, when you factor in your cost of conversion per square foot, it should be less than what you would be buying if you were just to buy a residential at that price per square foot. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But you need to be making sure that you're buying that commercial property at the right price per square foot, and then knowing your numbers to factor in your conversion to residential price. Otherwise, you might as well just go and buy residential property at the price per square foot and go into all the hassle of buying commercial and converting it to residential. The numbers don't stack up. So I put what I learned into practice and I bought this retail commercial property. Now I'm going to give you a quick tour of the top floor, as this is the area that has the potential to be converted to residential. In this video, I'm going to be covering some of the key things to think about when buying commercial property with a view to converting to residential. And more importantly, run through the numbers of converting this commercial property on the top floor to residential and see if I'm going to make any money from doing it. So if you want to learn if a commercial property is suitable for conversion, what to look for when buying a commercial property for conversion, and the numbers that you need to know to plug in to cost up your commercial property for that conversion to maximise your profits, please stick around. We're in the Peak District here where this commercial property's been bought. It's in a pretty good spot, like a tourist destination. It's right in the centre of the town. It's let on a 10-year lease with about 7.5 years remaining. And it's got the potential for conversion on the top floor to residential. Now that residential could be converted to 2 one-bed flats or a 3-bed apartment on the top floor.
Don't you see them shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see them shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see them shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see them shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see them shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see.
So I paid £384,000 for it, with stamp duty and legal costs and everything like that. It worked out at about £396,000. So here we are on the top floor. This is one of the rooms and it's got some good natural light coming in here. And one of the good things about this particular room is outside you can see Costa Coffee. Not bad, eh? Just the basic flooring on the floor, ready to put, say, a carpet down or something like that into this room. But it's a good sized room. It's got 2 windows to it and nice and light and airy. So here we are in another room. This room's got a bit of damp on the back of the wall, just about here that you can see. Not too bad, you know, it's a party wall, that wall. So again, when you're doing a conversion, all this type of thing will get looked at. You're going to be doing fixing up windows, doing floors. It's going to have to be an EPC rating to make sure it's residential and compliant. But check out the view from the window here. So these would be great for an Airbnb or something like that. It's a bit of a tourist town. So in this room we've got like wooden floorboards, which not in too bad a condition. So they could be fixed up, polished, sanded, but this room probably would be a bedroom because it's not overly massive. We've got this section here that's just in between these 2 rooms that we've just been in. That room and that room we've just been in. So we've got kind of this alcove here that probably could be a kitchen or something like that, down to this hallway that then comes to the stairway where we come up. Now we've got another room here that doesn't have any natural light in it. It's a good sized room though, but maybe you could put this as a kitchen or something like that. Again, it's got no floorboards on this particular one, so maybe just tile it or something like that, but guess what? Someone's been living here. Wow, he's dead now, that spider. Off the hallway, we've got another two little rooms. This would be like a toilet in here. There's another little room off of here. It doesn't have any natural light. So you'd have to put some skylights in the ceiling here or something like this. I think there's a peak here that you could probably put some in. And you could turn this into a little bedroom or study, something like that. Not overly big. There's a room just here that doesn't have any natural lighting. Again, it would need some skylights in putting in the ceiling. It's too dark to even see maybe in here. Floorboards again on the floor here. Now we've come to the end, so we've come down the hallway to the end here, and there's this big room here, which unfortunately there's only one small little light that isn't doing much of a job of lighting this place. But this is a massive room that goes up pretty high. Again, it would need skylights put in to the roof there. It's a lovely big room, which, if you could do it well, could be a good lounge area or something like that. So I touched on some of the negatives and positives in that tour, but let's go through what the positives and negatives are around this commercial property so you know what to look out for if you want to do a similar thing. So the property is fully tenanted right now, which means I don't have access to that top floor because it's under a lease for 10 years with 7.5 years remaining on it. So what I'd have to do if I wanted to get access to that top floor is revise that lease and probably give them some incentive to do that. So it'd probably be like a discount on the rent. This way they'd release that top floor to me because they're not using it, as long as I was able to do the conversion without impacting their business at all. The top floor has no heating. I don't see that as a big issue, but there's no heating up there already in place. As I mentioned on site, there's no natural light in some of those rooms, so that means that I'd need to put in skylights into some of those rooms, and with skylights you don't need planning permission or building regulations. In conservation areas you might be required to do that. This is in a conservation area, so it might be that for a skylight in this conservation area I might need to go through building regs approval for it. There's also no allocated parking with this property. There is parking out the back, but that's being used by the commercial tenant. So once converted to residential, the new tenants, or if I was to sell it off, the new owners, they wouldn't have allocated parking. But I've looked into it and you can get parking permits for free for your first car there. So let's look at some of the positives now. One of the main positives is that this property has side door access, and that side door would be used for the flats on the top floor, and therefore it's not going to interrupt the commercial tenant at all, and I don't have any approvals to go through to be able to put a door in. It's not a listed building, but it is in a conservation area as I mentioned, but I can use permitted development rights to convert this commercial to residential on the top floor, as I've seen this done just down the road in another commercial property where they converted the office to residential just a couple of doors down. The other great thing about this property, it's totally central in the town centre there. So it's going to be a desirable location for anyone wanting to rent that property or buying that particular property. I also believe, based on the square foot that's available on the top floor, that you could convert this to 2 one-bed flats because there's 915 square foot available, which is more than enough than the required square footage for a one-bed flat. There's great views from this property. It's in a tourist destination, which means if you wanted to, you could rent out the top floor flats via Airbnb to maximise your rental income. The other benefit is there's no sill levy, which is levied by the council on any new build residential housing. This is normally typically £100 per square metre, and this would be a saving of about £8,500 because there's about 85 square metres on 915 square feet. So let's get into the numbers now, and what we're looking for is the gross development value of this property. That's what we want to try and understand. What's the commercial unit worth and what's the 2 residential flats worth after that conversion? So the top floor up there has a gross internal area of 931 square feet, and I'm using a conversion cost of £100 per square feet. Now this cost is because this property is up in Derbyshire, where conversion costs are a bit less compared to if you're doing a conversion down in the southeast or in London, where those costs for conversion would be typically around £150 or £175 per square foot, even more than that in certain parts of London. Other costs we need to be thinking about is an architect, and I've allowed an architect cost of around 11% of our conversion cost here. We also need to add in a contingency, and I've allocated a 10% contingency across the cost of the conversion. And then I'd be financing the development work, and that would be financed through a bridging loan, and that would cost me 0.84% per month for that finance. And I've allowed a 9-month build time for the conversion from start to finish. So the costs are, we've got our purchase price, which was £384,000. Then we've got our conversion costs of 931 square feet, which equals £93,100. Then we've got the architect costs, the bridging costs and the contingency costs, and I've allowed £26,673 across that 9-month build phase for that. Then we've got stamp duty and legal fees, and I've allowed £11,700 for those. This gives us a total cost of £515,473 and a price per square foot of £134. I looked at this property, and when I was buying it, the agent was talking about converting the top floor into a 3-bed flat. But I had a look at it, and I was thinking that it would be better as 2 1-bed flats because I could get a higher gross development value from that. So I'm going to be giving you the numbers based on 2 1-bed flats rather than the 3-bed flat option, because I believe I can get a higher amount of money and a higher amount of profit from making it 2 1-bed flats as the conversion on that top floor. When I'm putting the numbers together for any conversion, I'm putting numbers together that have got a best case, a medium case, and a worst case. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm looking at the upside potential and also the downside potential. So hedging which way it might go there, because things like COVID and pandemics come along, therefore the price that you can achieve may be less. But in hindsight, actually the price that you can achieve right now has gone up in value. So let's look at the numbers across the worst case, the medium case, and the best case. So we've got the commercial property, which would be made up of the ground floor and the first floor. And how I've priced this up on the worst case scenario is I've priced this up on a 9% yield based on the new rental income of £35,000 that would be generating across those 2 floors. And then I've given the medium case an 8% yield based on that income of £35,000. And the best case, a 7% yield based on an income of £35,000. What you'll notice here is that the value increases as the yield goes down. Then I've priced up the 2 1-bed flats, and I've given them a minimum price of £100,000 each. And then for the medium case and the best case, I've just done a 5% uplift on the previous version. So 100,000, 105,000, and then 110,000 roughly for the best case scenario. So as you can see, our gross development value fluctuates from worst case of £588,889 up to £720,500 as a best case scenario. With the 1-bed flats, they'll be renting at £500 per month. So that equals £6,000 per year for each of those flats. But then if we were to convert it and add in those 2 1-bed flats, we'd be generating a total income of £47,000. I've factored in an Airbnb rental of 100 nights at £100, which would then equal £10,000 per flat, which is another 20 grand on top. So that would take the total income, if it's to Airbnb those 2 1-bed flats, to £55,000. Then we've got the yield based on our build cost price after conversion, and that works at 9.12% across the board. And this is because our build cost is the same whether it's worst case, medium case or best case. And our yield with Airbnb would uplift it further to 10.67%. And I've also worked out what the yield would be if we were to sell them at those GDV prices on the open market, just to see if that would be something that would be attractive to a property investor. Then there's a profit from the conversion, and the profit's working out at £73,416 on the worst case at 14.24% return on investment, up to the best case scenario where the profit would be over £200,000 and just under a 40% return on investment. So as you can see, in all of those cases we're making some profit. It then just comes down to, is the profit big enough to make it worth the aggravation and the hassle and the time that would be involved in doing that conversion, a big enough amount of money to make it worth doing. The reason you want to do conversions and look for commercial to residential conversions is because of this uplift in value. And the reason why you want that uplift is because you've got the potential then to go and refinance that property and pull out your money that you've put into it and go again. And this way you can build up your property portfolio and keep going and going and going, pulling cash out and putting it down on the next deal. So here we have a table based on the total cost for each of those cases. We're going to refinance the property and pull out 65% loan to value on that property, which gives us these figures here. So it ranges from 382,000 up to 468,000 that we could potentially pull out as a refinance on this property and therefore pay off our bridging loan and then keep the rest of the cash to go again on another deal. As you can see, in each of these scenarios, we have cash left in the deal of £132,000 down to a minimum of £47,000 only left in the deal on the best case scenario. And then assuming we get a loan of 4%, that would mean that we'd be paying £2,022 per month to service that loan, and that would still leave us with a cash flow of £1,895 per month based on just doing the £47,000 income, not Airbnb-ing it, doing the long-term rentals on those 2 flats. So some of the key lessons I hope you understand from this is that you want to be pricing up the worst case, a medium case and the best case as a minimum if you're looking at a potential commercial to residential conversion. Make sure you factor in all the other costs associated with doing that conversion as well. There's going to be an architect, there's going to be some finance fees, there's going to be some contingency. You need to add all of those into the mix and work out whether you're still making money after you add in all of those costs to your conversion. You also need to remember that there might be a seal levy based on your residential conversion, so go to the local council's website and check what that might be. When you're working out your gross development value, make sure you go and put in your worst case price for the sales for that particular type of residential property. In this case, I did a 1-bed flat was £100,000. That's the lowest price that I could see that was actually sold in that area for a 1-bed flat. There was a similar type of size that I could achieve for this type of conversion. Make sure you go and check the local planning laws for the permitted development by the council in the area that you're thinking of buying. If the building is listed, there's no way that you can do any permitted developments on any listed buildings, but you can do permitted development in conservation areas, potentially. If in doubt in any way, always check with the local planning office. They publicise telephone numbers and emails, and it's easy just to flick them an email and say, what's the situation with this particular property? Can I do permitted development on this particular property? Doesn't take long to go and check it. Let me know if you've had any questions by leaving a comment below, and I'll do my best to respond to them as soon as possible. Thanks so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. If you watched it all the way through and you've enjoyed it, please think about subscribing if you haven't already, as I talk about property, investing and entrepreneurship. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and see what I'm up to over there, and I'll see you next time.
Just see I'm shining. When I